we get a call. I was actually outside going through my jewelry. I'd just gotten a jewelry delivery I was selling Cookie Lee jewelry at the time. And it was a company out of California that sold fine fashion jewelry, and I was selling it, and I just got a shipment in, and I was going through my inventory and putting it in its jewelry cases, and I got a phone call on my phone that it was the high school, and that Connor had a seizure. And again, he had not had a seizure since he was a little over 2.5 years old. And my husband was outside helping me go through my inventory, and he could see the look on my face of panic. And he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "Connor's had a seizure, and he had a massive one." And obviously the school's literally not even a mile from our house; it's very close. So we jumped in our car and ran down to the school, and Connor had already been put in the ambulance. And he was in an ambulance, and they waved us over, and so I jumped in the back of the ambulance, and he was starting to come to from the seizure. And the paramedics looked at me and said, "Ma'am, does he have a history of this and that and that?" And I said, "No." And he wanted to know if he was epileptic, and I said, "Well," I said, "he hasn't had a seizure since he was 2.5, and he hasn't been on medicine since then, so I'm not sure what's going on." So the first thing they said is, "Does he do drugs?" And I said, "Well, no, and I would know it if he did, because I live with him and I see him all the time. And listen, I've done my share of drugs, so I kind of know what to look for." And Connor didn't resemble any kind of behavior or of someone who was doing any kind of drugs when he lived in our home. So I told him no, and I looked at Connor as he was coming out, and I told Connor, I says, "Have you done any, just talk to Mom, sweetheart. Okay, it's okay. Mommy's not going to be mad at you. Just talk to Mom and tell me, have you been doing any drugs? Did someone give you something? Were you taking it maybe because you were feeling sad or whatever?" And he said, "No, Mom." He says, "I would never do drugs." And I said, "Okay." I says, "Now, you understand they're going to take you to the hospital, they're going to run tests, and they'll be able to see if you did through your blood work and stuff." And he says, "Mom, I would never do drugs. That's not me." And I said, "I know it's not you, sweetie, but I just want to make sure. Okay, it's okay." I says, "I trust you." And so they, once they knew that that wasn't the case, that helped them to, I guess they called him to the hospital, and we got there, and they ran all kinds of tests, and there were no drugs in his system or anything. And so basically, everything that we went through, that year of just pure and utter, I don't know how the word when he was little to use. I mean, it almost, if you can imagine when your kid has the croup or something happens to your child and you're scared, and that feeling, that tingling on the back of your back that makes you petrified and scared, that's how we felt. We knew we were going to have to start reliving what we did when he was little, and both of us did not want to relive that. And we just don't understand. We did not understand how these could come back, and it was a stressful time for us because we didn't have health insurance, and we didn't have any money. And so, through the grace of God, I had a friend that did a little fundraiser for us to earn a little bit of money towards our medical expenses. And, my husband was doing tons of odd jobs, and I was working 3 jobs. I was selling my Cookie Lee jewelry, and I was answering phones for a friend at his offices to make extra money. And then I was also baking on the side. So I was working nonstop hours from sunup to sundown for us to not lose our home during the time that my husband was out without a job for a year. And my husband was working his butt off. He was doing every kind of odd job that you could think of, so we wouldn't lose our home. So not only were we stressed about our financial issues. Now we're stressed about our son's medical issues and how we're going to pay for, it. And more than anything, you're distressed about his health. That's what we worried about. Is, oh my gosh, we don't want to live this again. But we knew we had to conquer it and approach it with a sense of, we're going to do this just like we did when he was younger. And so that's what we did. And the saddest part about this, and it killed my son, was in Texas, and I don't know if this is anywhere else, if you have a seizure, you can't drive for 6 months. So he was not able to drive his new car that he got, and he felt like he was being punished. And it's hard to explain to a 17-year-old that you're not being punished, because in their mind, they are. And he just was devastated. So I told him, it's okay, we'll get through this together. We have, and we always will. And so, obviously I had to become a chauffeur and take him to work and, wherever he needed to go. And then obviously he relied on his friends to help him out and pick him up and take him places too. And his friends were very good about that as well. So, did we ever get to the bottom of what caused the seizures? No. They just said that through going to a neurologist and having tests done, that he was having seizures again, and he had the misfiring. So they put him on Keppra, which was I think they tried something first. I don't remember. There was a medicine they tried first, and I can't remember it. And then we switched to Keppra, and that's what he had been on up until he passed away. And he was on 2,000 milligrams, which he would take 4 tablets a day, because he was a big guy. Connor was he had been about 6 foot, 6'1". He was pretty tall, and he was about 230, 250 pounds. So he was he just a big, broad shoulders, just a big boy. And so that he had to be on a high dosage of that, and it worked. I mean, he would go 8 months and he wouldn't have a seizure, and then all of a sudden, boom, he'd have another one. So between 17 up until he was 24, he had about 5 seizures in between there. And before he passed away, he hadn't had a seizure since August 14th of 2014, because it had been over 2 years since he had been seizure-free before he died. And that was the one thing we were so excited about. We thought, oh my gosh, he's doing great. In fact, he had an appointment with his neurologist March of 2016. And he went to it by himself because, he's old enough. He's 23 years old, and he didn't need mommy going with him everywhere. And, obviously I would offer, but I think he enjoyed having his independence and being able to do these things on his own, and I wanted to give him that. That's the gift you should give your children, is for them to feel independent. And, but, I tell him, let me know how the appointment went. And so he called me, and in fact, I think he stopped by that day after his appointment. And, well, no, because he actually was living here at the time, so he was still living here. And I remember him coming home and so excited, saying that his appointment went great, and the neurologist thinks that, in the next year or two, he's going to be able to get off his medicine. And I said, well, that's great. I said, that's wonderful news, son. So he was very, very, very hopeful. Obviously, in the back of my mind, I was still worried.